Hello, friends, fans, and dairy products of all ages. This is Cheese of Ages, too low in the camera, and talking about a MMO that I picked up recently. Going to just try it out since it's effectively free to play now. And as you can tell below, it's the Defiance MMO, which was launched alongside the Sci-Fi Channel original series, arguably original series, that went on a pretty much an entire year-long hiatus after only a 12-episode season. Personally have not seen the Defiant show, but the plot lines I've seen in wiki summaries just makes me not even care in the least. Now, let me get this, clear. I do enjoy the concept of the setting. I mean, a collaboration of aliens from another planet arrive and try to make the planet suitable for their habitation, as well as basically they're trying to immigrate, but due to misunderstandings, they basically start a war with humanity instead. And in the process of that war, various events happen involving the alien technology and crap, and basically, by complete accident, the world is reverted to a post-apocalyptic setting after the spans of the war and several nasty accidents and battles that should not have happened being far, far too devastating. And the Defiant Few were both people of the aliens and humanity that united to defy orders to keep fighting, and instead united to end the war. And the town of Defiance was named after the Defiant Few, and the town of Defiance is where the show takes place. Now, the MMO is supposed to go side by side and have effects on the show, which is kind of hard to do when it only lasted 12 episodes and has been gone for nearly a year. For the better part of a year, nearly. And won't be back until a year after its season finale. And from what I hear, I haven't really watched the show, so I don't know, there's been next to no actual influence from the MMO in the show itself. And apparently, there's only some slight crossover between two characters from the show being briefly in the MMO. I only saw them during the introduction, and I haven't met up with them again to complete the quest line that they're involved in. And it's been a substantial amount of hours into the game, so I don't know what's going on. And also keep in mind, I've only played up to the point where you meet the lawkeeper that is inappropriately voiced. The black guy that looks like he's from Fallout 3. Pretty much looks like he's pulled it straight from Fallout 3, actually. And it is voiced by a guy that sounds like whiter than me. Inappropriately as hell voice actor for that part. It's like super black sheriff dude voiced by super white average Joe guy. And I've reached the point where you are discovering people are deliberately trying to cause hellbugs, which are alien monstrosities that try and kill everything, to swarm in their specific areas as a form of sabotage for unknown reasons. And just at the point where you leave the lawkeeper's area for security reasons. Spoilers. Anyway, let's get the positives out of the way before we go into the negative bits. The storyline is okay. It's basically feels very much like a sci-fi TV show in the post-apocalyptic vein. The story is pretty good, despite the fact that the voice acting is kind of questionable in bits, and the lip syncing is atrocious. It's otherwise storyline kinda okay-ish. However, everything about the MMO besides the storyline is kind of crap. Gameplay does not back up the storyline of the game. strong story so far, even though it's kinda hasn't progressed very far for the time I've invested. And you find yourself working for people you don't really care that much to like. And it's full of stereotypes. Everything for the premise of Defiance and both the game and the TV show are in fact stereotypical and just like freaking stock stereotypes. So that's to be expected. In fact, everything about the gameplay is stock stereotypes and nothing much else. Very little substance overall. Now, let's go into the gameplay in more depth. Don't be confused going into this thinking this is an MMO RPG. This is an MMO shooter. It has has RPG-like elements to it, and the fact that you can put points into abilities like these action RPGs it's basically a shooter mainstay these days to have things you can level up. And as typical for a lot of the shooters that have RPG-like elements, you really don't notice the points that much. Really. And some of you can start putting points in one of 4 powers, some of which are more potent than others for the game as a whole due to the environment. Population of this game is really very sparse, incredibly sparse. It's almost dead, I'd say, in the early goings, at least. So you're much better off picking powers that are good for being alone. And that's actually not powers you would usually suspect are good for being alone. For instance, the damage dealing capability that boosts your damage is actually relatively useless against the most abundant enemy in the game, aside from the fact that you can reload instantaneously, which is pretty good. 10% more damage, hooray. Well, the large majority of the enemies you actually need the damage boost on you're going to be dealing more than half damage unless you strike them in their weak point, which you can't get to the large majority of the time because you can't pull aggro off of you most of the time. I'm talking about the hellbugs. They frequently have the weak point on their butt. And if they're aggroing you, they're constantly turning to face you, and it's a hell of a freaking trouble getting around behind them, because they just turn on a dime, especially the really large ones, whose weak point is actually not exposed for a huge period of time. Except the one in their belly, which you'll be dodging the freaking attacks that are coming from it exposing that weak point to shootability, that you won't be able to shoot it. It's just cumbersome. It's far more practical in this game to pick the stealth or decoy powers, so you can distract the enemy, or be invisible to the enemy, go behind him, and then shoot them in the weak point, or send a decoy out there to pull the aggro, and then go around behind them, or take the time to line up the headshot in certain situations by going invisible or putting out a decoy. The boost power, more run speed, more melee damage. The boost power to increase your speed and melee damage, and the one that instantly reloads your current gun and boosts your damage for 10% for several seconds are both relatively useless. Because if you can't shoot the enemy in the weak point, you're doing 40% less damage than the person that snuck around behind the dude and hit their weak point. Anyway, gameplay-wise, it's stock MMO formula to an even more detrimental degree than the standard MMO formula. You play the same mission all the time. There is never a mission that you are not doing the same basic thing. There's no collect this number of things, certainly not. There's activate these certain number of waypoints on the map, yeah, which is basically collecting things from the ground. And then there's killing things in mass groups. So it's basically 2 missions, and only 2 missions. And the collecting mission boils down to kill everything in the area, and then stay in the spot for a period of time while you can't do anything. So basically, it all boils down to kill everything and around a particular point. And I'm considering the defending people and defending areas as just killing people in a particular area because it mechanically is identical. The person's then being attacked, even if they go down, they will never die. You can just revive them. You don't even have to revive them during the span of the mission. You could just let them drop, kill all the things, and revive them. Problem solved. There's no threat of failure of the mission because something was destroyed. Or someone was destroyed. If you're actively trying to do the mission at all. If you stood there and just let it happen, you would fail the mission naturally. But if you were actually doing something, you're not gonna fail. And oftentimes if you die, the spawn point is right there, 3 feet from your current position. So there's next to no freaking danger of failure. There is, however, a danger of you getting freaking sick and tired of killing droves of the same enemies and spending 5 minutes killing the freaking armored bugs because you physically cannot get behind them to shoot their weak point. And there's just so many of them on the freaking battle at the same time, it's just mind-numbingly frustrating. I keep blowing the freak up. Why are there's 9 of these things shooting grenades at me at once. Why is this happening? And personally for me, I see like a challenging enemy. It doesn't have that sensation of like, oh, I'm one of the tough ones. I'm gonna have to like play smart to do this. They're the tough enemies, like the big dudes with the rocket launchers or Gatling guns, mainly the freaking grenade launchers, are more just fuck. This annoying thing that has far too much HP and can kill me in 2 shots. And then I cannot I have to constantly move, basically change my entire weapon loadout, change my entire fighting strategy, just so this guy doesn't immediately steamroll me. It's not a challenge, it's just annoying in feel. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like an enjoyable challenge, it just feels like an annoying challenge, if you know what I'm talking about. And there's just like, you have to kill so many things. So much. It gets redundant. You're fighting for such a prolonged period of time and doing that same thing over and over again so much. It gets just redundant and annoying. And frustrating. It's like, okay, I'm gonna fight these hellbugs. Yeah. This is intense, man. There's so many of them, man. This is living hell. This is intense. Second time, oh, this is living hell. This is intense again. Reminds me of that last fight I had. Third time, oh, this is intense and hellish. Is this gonna happen every time? And well, that's it. It's an MMO, so it's kind of excusable that like you do the same things all the time. It's a grind fest. But every other MMO I've played, except Wizardry Online, felt better. It didn't actually like, each engagement didn't like drag out to an insane degree or have frustrating mechanics involved in it where, oh, I'm out of ammunition in the middle of this fight. It's gotta like somehow manage to hit this ammo point without getting myself killed. Or I've gotta have these ammo spike things and deploy them so I don't do ammunition again. And you'll have to like completely replenish your ammunition like 3 times before the common freaking fight is over, especially when you're doing hellbugs. Not so much when you're doing mutants, but mostly when you're doing hellbugs. Speaking of bugs, this game is full of them, even so far after release. The launch was a nightmare, from what I hear, but even now it is filled with so many freaking bugs. The AI is feeble and weak, and just mind-numbingly stupid and samey. Like, picture the worst shooter AI you've ever seen. Well, 3rd worst shooter AI you've ever seen. Like, picture just the most generic, low-budget shooter you've ever seen, and take the AI from that. That's the Defiance MMO enemy AI. Just freaking annoying, and silly, and stupid. and far too accurate with explosive weapons. It's like, why is this grenade launcher capable of hitting me from eggs precisely from like a football field's distance away? I don't freaking understand. It's just freaking annoying. Something that can instantly drop my shields from full shields, hitting me from like the distance of a sniper rifle with point blank accuracy. That's just kind of silly. Yeah, it's just frustrating and annoying and redundant and lazy AI and unlikable characters. And there's these things called arc falls, where pieces of alien technology fall from the ground, and they're a blatant rip-off of the Rift events from Rifts, only inferior in every way. It's like they basically took Rifts, sucked half of the variety out of it, slapped guns into it, took a post-apocalyptic generic setting, a coat of paint to it, kept like the weird mushrooms and crystalline structures that are litter about the environment, and semi-alien landscape mixed with earthen post-apocalyptia, and then cut loose. It's basically Rift with guns. And bad Rift with guns. It's not as good as Rift. It's a cheap imitation with guns. So, yeah. This is going to be one of my first harsh reviews of a video game since Wizardry Online. But thankfully, it's actually playable. Unlike Wizardry Online was when I reviewed it. Not even factoring in the abysmal launch servers. Just gameplay and design-wise, Wizardry Online was unplayable when I reviewed it. This game is at least playable, if you're willing to forgive the horrendous bugs and the glitches. One notable glitch that I encountered on a main story mission, mind you, was there was this rocket launcher wielding really tough enemy. Like, shooting it several times with a very powerful gun did not bring it down. And we killed every other enemy on the map. And because I was sniping the thing, it caused the AI of the thing to immediately try and take cover. And I kept on like finding the little point it was at, and it decided to hide in an inaccessible room that neither me nor the AI companion I was with could go into. And so the mission could not progress because we had to kill that for my AI companion to move on. And my AI companion wasn't moving around to in a shooting position, just went right below the guy on the first floor, even though the guy was on the second floor where we couldn't reach, because there was no point by which we could climb up there. He was completely inaccessible. So I had to resort to pulling out my sniper rifle, taking a couple of minutes to hop my way onto a fence that was outside of the building, and just repeatedly jump up and down over and over again, and lining up my crosshairs to where I could match the timing and repeatedly headshot at the top of my jump. So yes, I spent like 6 minutes hopping up and down on a fence with a sniper rifle, shooting a rocket launcher wielding mutant. That sounds far less fun. I mean, that sounds far more fun than it actually was. And that kind of comical scene does not really belong in something that takes itself so seriously. A concept that, it takes itself so seriously. And that was a main story mission that had that bad of an AI-induced glitch in it. It's like, sure, I'm perfectly fine with your AI programming you to evade sniper fire, but if you're going to have a big-ass room there that the enemy could be theoretically chased into, make it where you don't have to hop onto a fence and pogo stick with a sniper rifle to kill the enemy. Or at least program the AI to come back out after a period of time, so he's not in a nearly unshootable position, and making the mission, the main story mission, uncompletable. That's just silly. I mean, I was like basketballing grenades up in there, trying to speed the process up, but it wasn't doing anything. Spent like 6 minutes jumping up and down on a fence with a sniper rifle. Anyway, I'm going to be generous with this, as I've been generous frequently since I reviewed Wizardly Online with my scores, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4 out of 10, even though technically I could be a lot harsher with it. It is deserving of a 4 out of 10. It's slightly below average, far from what I would consider a good, which is a 6. It's playable, but glitchy as fuck. Anyway, this is Cheese of Ages, signing off.